Hey there, it's Ben from patternprofits.net bringing you the weekly watch list. We had a nice candle here on Friday. I pointed out midweek how we were finding resistance there. This is IWO, our small cap proxy for growth, and we did actually reclaim that anchored VWAP from off of the high year to date anchored VWAP right up against descending trend line there now. So any strength on there, we push through, come up here near 316, then 319 after that, and then much higher 340. We get to those prior highs. I do have plenty of setups this week, so I'm going to get to them quickly. But first, you want to take a look at FFTY. We're right up against resistance, horizontal resistance there, 48.22, top of the channel. You have just under 50 as a prior high above that. And then the other one we like to take a look at, PDP. That one actually broke out, little cup with handle pattern. We had pointed it out the last couple weeks and did confirm and get a push through and into new highs on Friday. Getting right into the weekly watch list, I'm going to start with Riot just because it looks a lot like what I pointed out with Mara, M-A-R-A, last week. Right up against year-to-date anchored VWAP. Be aware of that anchored VWAP from off of the high, but 4080, the pivot there, a little VCP type action there and set up, continued strength there, may push to that anchored VWAP from off of the high, and then you look for the push through there and turn that back up. D-Dog seems to be on our list every week, but I want to keep that one on your radar. Power earnings gap there. You found support at anchored VWAP from off of that power earnings gap. 135.38, the high there and the pivot, looking for that to reclaim your inside there. So you have that pivot as well as the inside day to work with should that come out to the upside. Also, LTHM. This is another one. Let me zoom out a little bit here. Big cup, high handle, reclaimed anchored VWAP from off of the high there. You have the pivot just below at 23.99, looking for continuation upside there. Kind of weighted on the moving average cloud, and you're there now. So look for that one to make some upside progress. I'm kind of getting over the double whammy with ZI, Zoom Info. The secondary 60.28, that pivot just below, and now you're finding support here at anchored VWAP from off the power earnings gap. If you've been following along, this one held up very well despite two secondaries announced immediately after earnings. So looking for this one to take out, what's that prior pivot back here? 64.40. And then 67.63 above that. That is ZIRRR. This Red Rock Resorts is looking at little cup pattern here up high, bullish outside day, so it may just want to go. Would look even better if it went sideways here a little bit, but this is one that huge earnings. I believe it was triple double on both that last report where we had triple digit EPS growth and triple digit revenue growth. So putting that pattern on your map there, but like I said, may want to handle out some more. Or because of this bullish outside day, it may just go. Tandem, I seem to put on your radar each week. This group still looks good. Came in last week, 113.48, the pivot here, holding cloud and above anchored VWAP from off the gap. Dexcom and Pod in the group still look good, so that's why I want to keep that one on your radar. PLTR, we talked about this one all last week, 25.94 the pivot. Looking forward to close above there now. We got a little push through, but close below 27.50, the next pivot above. And now you're above all of these. The pinch and what we had talked about, anchored VWAP from off of the high, anchored VWAP from off of the low. You're above all of those levels now. So looking for continuation to the upside there. Another theme I see playing out this week, the toys. We've talked about these in the past. BBW just had a big response to their earnings. Now you've got Jack 1388 pivot, which it closed above. You're inside here. You're a few cents away from being double inside right at the pivot, back above anchored VWAP from off of the high. So looking for that one, continuation upside there. And then in the same group, MAT, Mattel, cup with handle pattern, standard pivot 2271. Let's not call it a power earnings gap. Let's just call it earnings has reclaimed that anchored VWAP off of that earnings day, and now maybe finds that area as support. You certainly could bench your risk up against that if it comes out of there to the upside. One more, EVRI. All of these names so far, focus list names, power of three setup. Here you have a descending trend line. You've got 2590, the standard pivot above, but I like to use that power of three and the descending trend line as an early entry candidate. Volume has eased up here, so looking for that one to come through on big volume. We also have, this is another, EVRI is another double triple name there as far as on the fundamental side of things. Moving over to the power earnings gap list. Dexcom mentioned it earlier. This group still looks good. You've now got an ascending triangle pattern there. 324.31, the high of the power earnings gap day. Looking to see inside here if that one can come out, reclaim the high there and push into new highs. Old friend, SEDG, Solar Edge, just pushed through anchored VWAP from off of the power earnings gap. Big volume down here puts it on our radar. Came out of the pinch, back above, either upside, comes back when it retests that anchored VWAP and turns it back up, or on continuation using that anchored VWAP to manage risk. I also have WCH, switch a little more thinly traded, but this is also power earnings gap. Didn't close that great on that day, but if you see, took out anchored VWAP back above anchored VWAP from off of the power earnings gap. I like the way it's shaping up. Cloud support just below. You have the volume shelf, point of control kind of building out right where it's at. This is easy to manage tightly on a move higher out of this little consolidation here. So that one on the radar, another one with good fundamentals behind it. BRP group. This is how we do it. This power earnings gap, big volume, anchored VWAP from off of the power earnings gap. Provided support, volume shelf, point of control right there, descending trend line. Look for price to take that out to the upside. Unity Software, we talked about this one being double inside on the weekly last week. If it's double inside, there must be a triangle on the daily, and there it is. Inside on the day, above anchored VWAP from the power earnings gap as well as off the high. Closed above, look for it to take out the triangle to the upside. We also have this one carrying over from last week, Doximity. We had power earnings gap here, anchored VWAP acting as support, came down early in the session on Friday, pushed below anchored VWAP, found support at the volume point of control there, and volume shelf right there had a nice recovery, looking for upside continuation there. Couple more. DLO, another new issue which have been hot lately. Power earnings gap, big volume, anchored VWAP from the power earnings gap holding. See if it can push through the high from that day, 68.71, the level there. Has tried a couple times but hasn't been able to close above that level. So see if we can get some upside progress there early in the week. And one that's very early, but I think you should have on your radar, Bill. This was like 800, almost 800% above average volume here, and a close up high in the daily range. 288.88 the high. If they can push through that early next week. We know they're aggressive and coming for it. If it does come in or goes inside, you know how we play these anchored VWAP attached. Watch how it reacts to that level. Hope you guys have a great trading week. I am encouraged with this many setups. Anything else that should come up during the week, we will share over on FinTwit. Have a great week.